Hey kids, welcome to another Catechism for Kids episode. Today's miracle is from Mark chapter 8, verses 1 to 10, and it's a Bible miracle that we've all heard before. Jesus feeds 4,000 people with only 7 loaves of bread and some fish. Let's dive right into the story. In those days, when there was again a great crowd without anything to eat, he called his disciples and said to them, I have compassion for the crowd, because they have been with me now for 3 days and have nothing to eat. If I send them away hungry to their homes, they will faint on the way, and some of them have come from a great distance. His disciples replied, How can one feed these people with bread here in the desert? He asked them, How many loaves do you have? They said, 7. Then he ordered the crowd to sit down on the ground. He took the 7 loaves, and after giving thanks, he broke them and gave them to his disciples to distribute. And they distributed them to the crowd. They had also a few small fish, and after blessing them, he ordered that these too should be distributed. They ate and were filled, and they took up the broken pieces left over, 7 baskets full. Now there were about 4,000 people, and he sent them away. Then he broke the pieces of bread and gave them to the disciples, so they could give to the people. Immediately he got into the boat with his disciples, and went to the district of Dalmanutha, and those 4,000 people were fed. Can you imagine being there? It must have been so exciting to see Jesus work another miracle like he did with the 5,000, but this time, this crowd was even bigger. Jesus was able to feed all of them with only 7 loaves of bread and a few fish. But wait, didn't Jesus already feed a huge crowd of people in another miracle? Yes, he did. We read about it in Matthew chapter 14, verses 13 to 21. There he fed 5,000 people. That miracle is called the feeding of the 5,000. Now, do you remember the difference between the feeding of the 5,000 and the 4,000? The first thing I noticed is that during the feeding of the 5,000, Jesus fed 5,000 people, predominantly Jewish audiences because it happened at Bethsaida, which was the fishing village on the Sea of Galilee. And afterwards, they picked up 12 baskets of leftovers. But when Jesus fed the 4,000, they only picked up 7 baskets of leftovers. Do you know why there's a difference? Well, let me tell you. The feeding of the 4,000 is important because of where it took place. The feeding of the 5,000 took place near Bethsaida, close to the Sea of Galilee. In contrast, the feeding of the 4,000 took place in the region of the Gerasenes, in the region around the Decapolis. That means the audiences here are mostly Gentiles. In other words, it's the Gentile sequel to the feeding of the 5,000. Jesus may have encountered trouble at home, such as the conflict with the Pharisees over hand-washing, but his reputation in the Decapolis has grown to the point that he can now attract an audience of 4,000 Gentiles and hold them for 3 days until they run out of food, leading to the second feeding miracle. Matthew, Mark, and Luke record most of Jesus' ministry as taking place in Galilee, which is an area north of Judea. In these 3 Gospels, Jesus is in Judea at the very beginning of his ministry, when he is baptized by John, and again at the end of his ministry, when he is crucified in Jerusalem. Between those points, however, he spends most of his time in Galilee, but not all of it. He also makes excursions into Gentile territory, such as when he exorcises the Gerasene Gadaran demoniac. Mark 5:1-20. That's why there was a herd of 2,000 pigs in that story, because the Gerasenes were Gentiles and ate pork. This would be a strange thing to say if the audience were Jewish. Jews already glorified the God of Israel. They did it all the time. They worshipped him daily. What would be more remarkable worthy of Matthew making a remark on it is for Gentiles to glorify the God of Israel. It thus looks like both Matthew and Mark subtly portray the feeding of the 4,000 as the Gentile sequel to the feeding of the 5,000, foreshadowing the including of Jews and Gentiles within his church. In this second miracle, 7 loaves are used and 7 baskets are collected. The number 7 is symbolic of completeness, not just Jews but Gentiles too. And the number 7 is reminiscent of the 7 days of creation, when God created all humanity. Now, both times Jesus showed mercy on the people because they didn't have food. But Jesus also showed us an important lesson in the feeding of the 4,000. Do you know what that lesson was? Let's look at these verses together. Verse 6 says, And Jesus had compassion on them and said, How many loaves of bread do you have? They said 7, and he sent them away at once with a command to feed them. Jesus didn't wait until the next day to feed the people. As soon as he knew their need, he acted. Even though they only had 7 loaves of bread, Jesus knew that it would be enough. All they had to do was give it to him, and he would take care of the rest. So, what is the significance of 2 feedings of the multitudes? Both miracles show the provision of the Lord, his love for all his people, both Jew and Gentile. Jesus will later claim in John 6, "I am the bread of life." In these miracles, Jesus feeds them with miraculous bread in preparation for the day when he would have his own body broken like bread upon the cross, offering spiritual and eternal nourishment to all who would call upon his name and place their faith and trust in him. My friends, no matter how small or how little we think we are, Jesus sees us and cares for us. And if we trust in him, he will always take care of our needs. He might not always give us more than we give him, but he will make sure that what we do have is enough because he loves us and wants us to have everything we need. When we put our trust in Jesus, he becomes our provider. He helps us with our physical needs like food and gives us even more, the spiritual food we need to be with him forever in heaven. Do you remember the disciples? They were the ones who gave the food to the people. Well, Jesus chose them to be his disciples, which means students or learners. Jesus is our teacher and friend, and he wants us to learn from him. He wants us to be his disciples too. As Jesus' disciples, we can help others by sharing the love, hope, and joy that we find in him. We can show people the way to God by being kind, helpful, and loving. Dear Jesus, thank you for taking care of your disciples and the crowds who followed you. Help us to always trust in you, especially when we're hungry or afraid. Amen. Yay. We made it to the end of today's story. Thanks for watching. If you like this episode, don't forget to click the like button. Subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on any of our new videos. See you next time, and God bless you.